Hello, my name is Carl Matz. I'm a professor of educational studies at Minnesota State University in Mankato, Minnesota. This is the first of 3 short videos on approaches to teaching reluctant readers at the middle school and high school level. This first will be a discussion of where that disconnect takes place. The second in the series will be how to assess and how that assessment can be used to determine best practices to assisting middle school readers. And then the third will be a video specifically intended to provide ideas and approaches for addressing the needs of reluctant adolescent readers. First of all, the issue of where does the disconnect take place. This is sort of a review of the fundamentals of reading. Prior to school, children who come from literate homes, and by literate homes I mean homes where reading happens. A non-literate home is not a home where people cannot read. A non-literate home refers to a home where reading doesn't happen, and children don't get that modeling that they need. And without that modeling, they frequently come to school without this information. By way of review, the alphabetical principle is the understanding that the written symbols represent spoken words. Phonemic awareness is the understanding that spoken words can be broken into parts. A child who, if you ask what is the first sound you hear in the word pan, can say p. And if you ask what is the ending sound that you hear in the word pan, that child would be able to say That child possesses good phonemic awareness. Research tells us that phonemic awareness is the best predictor of future reading success, primarily because children who have phonemic awareness and an understanding of the alphabetic principle naturally do well when they learn phonics. And phonics would be the next level here. That disconnect happens for many children because they come to school without this knowledge, and although excellent kindergarten teachers try very hard to provide phonemic awareness activities and try very hard to teach the alphabetic principle, any kindergarten teacher will tell you that in the fall, when the children come to school, there's already a large gap between the reading abilities of the children at the upper level and children at the lower level, and this is just in kindergarten. As they grow older, that gap expands. In fact, the rule of thumb is typically that the number of the grade is at least equal to the range of reading abilities in that grade. So in a 5th grade classroom, you can plan on seeing a range of 5 years between the best and the lowest reader. Or basically, you'll have children reading at the 7th grade level and children reading at the 2nd grade level. And of course, the challenge is how do you teach them all? By the time they get to 8th or 9th grade, that gap has expanded, not only because of the natural development of good readers and poor readers, but because the material that they're reading becomes much more challenging and much more specific. So what can naturally happen is as they grow older and the vocabulary challenges become greater, they fall farther behind. And the truth about vocabulary is a simple one. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Children who are good readers tend to develop very strong vocabulary skills. In fact, nothing will provide better learning of vocabulary than constant reading. Good readers find reading easy. They do more of it. They see more words written correctly in context, and they see them more often, and so their vocabulary naturally increases. Poor readers don't enjoy reading, so they do less of it. They see less words in context, and their vocabulary grows much more slowly. And again, that gap expands. Fluency becomes an issue. I like to think of it this way. We have just so much cognitive energy when we're reading. If we have to spend a lot of our cognitive energy figuring out what's on the surface of the page, then we don't have any cognitive energy left to comprehend. We want children to be able to read with something we call automaticity. Fluency typically refers to speed and accuracy. I like to also add the aspect of inflection. Because if a child is reading fast and accurately, but without any inflection, they could be just rapidly identifying the words, and comprehension is not going to occur. But if you hear that pitch, pause, intonation that indicates knowledgeable understanding of what they're reading, then that's a good key that comprehension is happening. So fluency is going to suffer when the vocabulary suffers. If they have to struggle with the text, they're going to pause when they come to words they don't know or don't recognize. Again, as they struggle, they learn to dislike reading more and more. It's more and more humiliating. It's more and more challenging as they grow older, and the gap expands. Comprehension, then, is always an issue, because if the knowledge of phonics isn't there and they struggle, then the vocabulary, they start to fall behind in vocabulary. Their fluency suffers, and naturally their comprehension suffers, because, again, they don't have the cognitive energy available to comprehend. They're working so hard to just say the words correctly. And I tell you what, I've done reading evaluations on dozens and dozens of children, and I don't know how many times teachers have called me for a referral and said, he reads really well, but he doesn't comprehend. And I think, well, first of all, is he reading? Because comprehension is the soul of reading. What's the point of really attacking the text on the page if you come away from it and you don't understand what you've just read? And secondly, I'm thinking, well, the child probably learned what he was taught. He was taught how to say all the words correctly, and we were satisfied that everything was going well if he could say the words correctly. Assuming that if he says all the words correctly, comprehension will somehow naturally follow. Comprehension does not naturally follow. Comprehension has to be taught. And in the next two installments of this video series, I will address the issue of how to teach comprehension, and also how to discover what it is the child really needs to learn. Part 2, we're going to talk about how to identify the levels of books and how to provide children with the right kinds of levels of books so that they're maybe just a little bit challenged, but not so challenged that it becomes frustrating for them. And I will see you then.